my name is Heidi McKillop. I am President and CEO of ASN Productions. I think with anything with the carbon tax, what is really important to remember is that when you tax the farmer, you tax the fuel, you tax the driver, and then it's going to go right to your groceries. It's going to go to all of your bills that you see day to day. And as a single mom, I get really concerned about this because I don't really want to be spending double the amount of an energy bill that I'm not prepared to put into my financial part from here on out. So I think this is a big concern that a lot of moms, a lot of people across Canada are having, is that they're seeing the affordability crisis that's coming into hand. And there really isn't a solution to this except for to utilize our own resources here in Alberta and across Canada in a more efficient way, so that Canadians can see the benefit that we have here, which is our land. It's a longevity of what we can accomplish as a nation to use it in the proper way and have environmentally friendly focus on this as well. Well, I think this is a really complicated question because on one point, I think that Canadians really do care about the environment because we're surrounded by it on a day-to-day basis. We can't imagine a life without having the natural environment. Whereas when you go to LA and you go to more industrial places, they don't have that connection like we do to our mountains, to our forests, to being outside and doing things in nature that we enjoy, like camping. I think, though, as a long-term focus, we have been told in Canada that oil and gas is bad and natural resource extraction of any kind is bad. But yet we are very high consumers here. We need a lot, whether it's traveling, we have long distances across Canada to go see our friends and family. It's not something that we are going to be able to get rid of at this point. So I'm really surprised by having this emission conversation, why people aren't more aware of how little our environmental footprint is globally in terms of carbon when you can cross-compare to China. So I think there's some really complicated issues there that they want to see Canada suppress long-term and not have us flourishing as a nation. I think that's another point that a lot of people aren't addressing. So right now we're working on a documentary on the environmental impacts of green energy. I think a lot of times green energy movements get kind of pushed aside as being clean, environmentally friendly, and don't have any natural impact on the land or on wildlife, which we have found after 10, 15 years of these industrial projects, but that's not true. You have predator birds, you have insect migration, you have bat problems that are associated with these wind turbines. We have problems with solar panels because they take up a lot of agricultural land. They degrade the soil underneath of it. These are extremely important conversations to have long-term. And I want to see every industrial project held accountable for its environmental footprint. And I hope our documentary is going to do that. We're going to be diving into the investigative part of what these projects have been doing to locals and to our environment. There isn't an industrial plan. Once these projects are manufactured, who reclaims them? You know, oil and gas has had this conversation for 30 years. Once these wells are drilled, what happens to them once they have lived their lifespan of their efficiencies for the company? What happened in Alberta is a lot of companies end up bankrupting parts of their portfolios and put them into the OWA, which is the Orphan Well Association. So we have a crisis now of reclaiming old wells. What I foresee these industries happening is because there's no trust that is started with the reclamation of the project and travels through to the end of the project to reclaim the land. It is now being left to farmers, to everyday people that own the property, to handle the reclamation of these industrial projects, which is unfair. I think this is a very clear thing that we need to do better at. I think that oil and gas is a very good example of what we should have done better in that industry. And I want to see that directly applied to the solar and the wind turbines. You can't make these projects in Canada unless you have a very clear bank account that is going to be allocated to this and a very clear plan of what you're going to do afterwards. I am always very hopeful with innovation and with entrepreneurs. They will come up with really smart and clever ways to handle these solutions, but we have to make sure that we're addressing that. You can find me on YouTube, which is where we put most of our videos out. I'm also on LinkedIn under Heidi McKillop, and that's usually the best form of contact for me.